this is Johnny, my son, my daughter. There's a lot of resistance here, right? Early on. So, and now, but when I was first, this is the same time period as when I was showing Johnny the Mid-Journey. My daughter was home for the holidays and I was trying to show her and she was not having it. She's like, I
And
don't want
she's an artist.
She's an artist. She's like, I don't want to see this. And she said, how would you feel if somebody could replicate what you were doing and you'd spent all this time learning how to do it? And I was like, this is how I would feel. And I took a piece of copy and I asked the AI, make this sound more like Sean Platt. And that's what it did.
Once upon a time, 3 writers helped crack open the indie publishing world. Then they rode into the sunset, building bigger stories, taking bigger swings, and learning what actually lasts when the noise dies down. Now the band is back together, older, sharper, and uninterested in shortcuts. This is the Smarter Artist Show with Sean Platt, Johnny B. Truant, and David W. Wright. It's the same 3 voices you know talking about the craft and commerce of storytelling, from the work they're creating to the TV shows and movies they can't stop thinking about. Shop talk for artists playing the long game in a creative world that never slows down. If you've been here since the early days, welcome back. If you're new, pull up a chair. You're listening to the Smarter Artist Show. Let's get into it.
And welcome to Smarter Artist, episode 4, Creation Evolved. Today I'm here with Sean Platt. Johnny B. Truant has already dropped out of the podcast. He's done. He's gone. No,
he was like, fuck you guys. No, we actually knew last week that he wouldn't be here this week. Dave, is that your something cool that Johnny's not here this week?
No, I prefer Johnny to be here because it's less that I have to talk.
That's actually totally fair.
This is way more work for me.
That's you know what? I actually hadn't thought about that, but you probably sweated before the show today, huh?
Yeah, I'm still sweating, even though it's like 20 degrees outside.
It is. How cold is it really?
Really? Well, I don't know right now, probably like 30 to 40. I don't know. It's pretty cold.
It's like 70 right now, but it was like 17 yesterday. Texas cannot make up its mind. It's just super, super, super cold. And then it's like, man, I'm wearing too many layers.
People love when we talk about the weather for like 10, 15 minutes. Everybody, and then maybe get into a discussion of my hair and my beard. So today is going to be a controversial episode, perhaps, because we're going to be talking about Creation Evolved and the use of AI. So I'm waiting and bracing for the hate comments. And yeah, you want to start with something cool?
Well, my something cool is your anxiety at how many people are going to be hating. I know, even after all these years, it's adorable how much you care. I know that...
You hear that, everybody? Sean doesn't care about you. I do. Sean doesn't.
I absolutely, anyone listening, I absolutely care. But I also know that we cannot speak to everybody. And I'm speaking to people who, like, the show is about creativity evolved. And look, like, we're not getting the genie back in the bottle. So this is the reality that we live in. And how do we not only how do we deal with it, but how do we thrive? How do we feel alive? But we'll get to that. Do you have something cool?
Yeah, my something cool is the movie Groundhog Day, a little independent movie you might have heard of that just came out.
Did you watch it yesterday?
Yes, I did. The movie from the 90s with Bill Murray and Andy McDowell and Chris Elliott. I forgot he was in it. I loved Chris Elliott back in the day. Cabin Boys, one of the worst movies ever.
I've never seen it.
It's worth watching just to have seen it. It's bad, but it's good in a weird way. I don't know. Better than Birdemic.
Did you know who one of the main writers on Get a Life was?
I don't remember who.
Charlie Kaufman.
I could see that because Get a Life was ahead of its time and weird. And yeah, I liked Chris Elliott way back in Letterman when I watched it. And I liked when he had his own show, Get a Life. Yeah. So anyway, Groundhog Day is one of those movies I saw. I considered it one of my favorite movies, even though Sean gave me shit because I hadn't seen it in forever.
Well, no, okay. So we're on a company call yesterday, and he's like, "It's one of my favorite movies ever." And I said, "Well, when's the last time you saw it?" And the reason I was asking, I wasn't questioning whether it was a good movie. Groundhog Day is a classic, and it invented a genre, and it's amazing. But but there's been a lot of times. Oh, and he was talking about how he was going to show it to his son. So that's context here. And I was like, well, when's the last time you've seen it? Because I've had the unique experience, not so unique. I think this is a parenting thing where you show your kid a movie that you thought was so amazing.
Mhm.
And like the worst experience I ever had, other than showing my children Eddie Murphy Raw. And dude, do you remember the first 5 minutes of Eddie Murphy Raw? I'm not going to
Yeah,
repeat it
that
here.
doesn't live up to, the
No, I was
sensibilities of today.
horrified. But something about Mary was one where I just talked about how funny it was. Oh, your mom and I laughed so hard in the theater. And like, I had both of my children on either side of me just waiting for it to end.
Giving you a judgmental stare like, "How
So
could
I
you
said,
la
when's the last
we
time?
like you, we love you, and now we're disappointed in you."
I did feel their disappointment and it didn't feel good. But that's why I was asking. I'm like, well, when's the last time you saw it? And then you said, I don't know, in the theater. And I'm like, so it's one of your favorite movies of all time. And the last time you saw it was almost 40 years ago.
I saw it perhaps on VHS after that, maybe DVD, I don't remember. But yeah, it had been a while. I don't really watch movies a lot. The only movie I watch more than any other movie might be, Into the Spider-Verse, the first one.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's odd, I don't know, I don't get sick of that, or Cars, because I watched that with my son when he was little,
Yeah. Well,
and that's
fathers of a
nostalgia.
certain age, like we just,
But anyway, so for Groundhog Day, um, yeah, I watch it with him. It's a movie my wife's never liked, and I don't get that. There's something wrong with her. I think maybe it makes her anxious. That would make
well,
sense.
and she doesn't know how to park a car.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, we're going way back on old podcasts here, but anyway. So I'm watching a movie with him, and it is tough to see, even with music, like anytime I introduce something new to him, it's like, does this hold up? I don't enjoy it as much because I'm seeing it through his eyes.
Yeah. No,
And
I
I'm
I
seeing
get
it how slow that intro is. The beginning opening scenes, not one, but two musical things with credits. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like awful now. But and the acting wasn't as good as I remember, but the movie overall I felt good about, and he enjoyed it. So I say if you get bored at any point, let me know. We'll bail. And he watched the whole thing and he liked it. There were scenes though that were a little rapey, like when Bill Murray's character doesn't want her to leave. He's like trying to get to sleep with Andy McDowell's character, and I was like, "Ooh, no, I don't." It was a different time back then. This does not
it
feel the
was
same.
indeed.
He's an unlikable character, but somehow by the end, I still enjoyed the movie. Would I change it if I was doing it today? Oh, hell yeah. But for what it was at the time, I thought it was a great movie.
Dude, this sounds like I'm making a joke, but I'm really not. You should actually, I think I have it. I'll send it to you. The actual screenplay for the Groundhog Day that did not get made.
Horror?
So, dude, it's so much darker. It's so
There were moments where it seemed like it was shot and the music is kind of like a horror movie, and it felt like an extended Twilight Zone episode. And like I was like, ooh, I want to see what that movie would have been like.
yeah, it's really interesting in the, the versions of movies that didn't get made, right? So, when I was learning to write scripts, I don't know what, 7 or 8 years ago, and I was just like I would watch a movie, or I'd either watch a movie and then read the script and watch the movie again, or read a script, watch a movie, read the script again, whatever. But I really wanted to see that, like, get familiar with the language and rhythms on the page and then see how it translated. And I felt like that was more instructive than just like reading books about screenplays. And so Groundhog's Day was one of the ones, like, I read the script and I'm like, this isn't the movie I remember. And then I watched the movie. I'm like, definitely not in the script. And they're very different. And I'm sure that there was a shooting script that was, that I could have tracked down, but whatever. The one that I ended up downloading off of some script site was just very different. And it's interesting. I guess it's a comedy, but it's a much darker comedy than the one we know and love.
Oh, so what is your something cool, or was it?
No, my something cool is, have you seen Landman?
No, I've not. Is it
So
another Yellowstone spinoff?
no,
Because there's not enough of those. I'm
it's
telling you.
not one of the 83. It is Taylor Sheridan,
Okay.
but it's not. It's the most Texas show I've seen since Friday Night Lights, which isn't good or bad. It's just it's very, very Texas. But what I love about it is Billy Bob Thornton. I just love watching him in the show. His
I like the
dialogue,
way you talk.
he doesn't do that. He's
I
just
would
like
prefer a Sling Blade show.
no, his life, like life is just beating the shit out of him. And it's one of those where I enjoyed the first season and I watched the second season, not because like I was even super excited about it. It was like, oh, I should probably watch the second season. We watched the first one. And we were just like, Cindy and I, like last week, were like, okay, what do we want to watch next? And we've been watching a lot of limited series, and we thought, okay, well, let's just continue something that we already watched. And I went into it with not a bad attitude, but like definitely expecting to just be like whatever. And then by the end, I'm like, man, I really enjoyed the hell out of that season. There's characters I actively do not like. They're just like so annoying, but I love the dialogue. And it's got Sam Shepard in. I love Sam Shepard, and he's just got. When I'm an old man, I want to be Sam Shepard, right?
Well, you have to grow the mustache, or it doesn't count.
Dude, his mustache, he's just like, he's so cool. He's just
You ever
such
see
a-
the Simpsons episodes where he is on there, like it's a
Yes.
new mayor and his mustache like runs away?
Yeah, I think that he's just really cool, and Andy Garcia is in it. But the reason I liked it, like the dialogue aside, it's that's all really good. But what I love is that when it got to the finale, it had one of those finales where like it didn't rely on a cliffhanger to get you into the next season. And I loved that it just ended so confidently. All the threads came together. There was nothing wasted. And all of the, like, just for on a pure storytelling level, by the time it got to the final episode, everything just mattered. Like, you realize all 10 episodes really led to something. I I love the confidence of we have full closure and you're still going to come back next season. And I felt like my time as a viewer was really valued. And so anyway, I really like the show. I'm very curious about season 3, and it's rare that I like a season 2 a lot more than a season 1. Normally, season 3s are usually my favorite. Like season 3s are, oh man, they've got these characters figured out. They've got this world figured out. They have enough success that they start taking chances. But I think this is the most I've enjoyed a season 2 since Succession season 2. So that's my something cool.
Well, let's get into the show topic today. We're going to be talking about how should we frame it?
Well, I think that we talked about calling the show Creation or Creativity Evolved.
Yes.
And I think that's a good framing device, because I don't think it's about AI or not AI. I think that that's like the boogeyman around it. I think it's more like, hey, like creativity has not changed. Like creativity is creativity, but the nature of creation has changed, and the nature of marketing has changed, and like everything's saturated. And like how do you not lose your creative soul, right? And it's been really interesting over the last few years seeing like the temperature change, right? So we touched on this, I think it was a tiny bit in last week's episode when we were talking to Johnny. And the first time like I was experimenting with AI was with Midjourney, and I'd put it off for a long time because I just had a lot of shit that I needed to get done, and I knew it was going to be a rabbit hole. And once I went deep, I went really, really deep. And what shocked the hell out of me was that the results were pretty easy to get really good results. Like at a glance, substantially better than what the average was, even when I was just starting. And I realized, oh, it's because it's a language thing. And I would see like the generations, it's almost like you want to win an argument with with the robot. I know you could do better than this, right? And it's come a long way since then. Back in I think this was like Midjourney 3, I want to say. And I don't even know what it's up to now because I haven't used Midjourney in a long time. But when I first was using Midjourney, it was almost like just like pulling a slot machine. Like every generation would be totally different, and there wasn't like an iterative process in the way that a lot of AI stuff is now. But it was still like the more clearly you could articulate what you wanted, the better your results would be. And that's when I really realized, oh, this actually isn't random. AI is a place where storytellers and language people have an unfair advantage. And I brought that to Johnny, and I was like, I was showing him some of the Midjourney stuff, and I was like, you know, this is really cool. And he was like, it is not cool. And he's like, but I'm supposed to be excited because there's something that makes, you know, that people can write fast. That's what I do. I write fast, and now it's not special anymore. And I was like, I get it, but it also allows people who don't write fast but can think in story to to develop themselves in a way that they couldn't before. And I thought about all the people who it gives an opportunity now, because now they've never been able to tap into it. And now flash forward a couple of years, and like, I was never excited about generative AI with words because I can do that. Like, that's not exciting for me, you know. And in fact, like, it usually takes me, like, anytime I've ever fucked with AI in that respect, it's a time consuming process to undo all the garbage.
And we don't, you know, for the record, we don't use AI for our stories.
No, it's banned in the company. Derek Setaway, hi Derek, who's a longtime listener and used to come to the Smart Artist Summits. He had a post on LinkedIn the other day that I loved, where it was like a graph of the amount of time where, like, we used to create, and now we're basically, you know, like, becoming the centaur, where we're half robot, half creator, and the amount of time that we're actually undoing, you know, the AI is just, it's kind of ridiculous. I've definitely seen that trap where you start losing yourself and letting the AI make the decisions, and that's just dumb. That's really, really dumb. So I was never excited about that element, but I was excited for other people, where, like, okay, they can start talking about the kinds of stories they want, and they can, you know, like, people who never had an opportunity before. And that was the argument that I made to Johnny, like, hey, we got an opportunity. There was once upon a time when traditional publishers were like, fuck these indie guys, you know, like, they shouldn't have this opportunity. And we're like, hey, we have an opportunity now, that because the time has evolved, and now it's time is evolving for other people, and the doors are open. And I think that's really cool. Well, now I am experiencing something where it's new opportunity for me, and that's with music, because I can't do the things, like, I can write all the stories. I wrote 200 books before AI could generate words other than auto, you know, or what.
200 books isn't impressive compared to AI.
Well, no, but I
I
did
wrote
it
200
without,
books today.
I did it without the robots, right? And so that was never going to excite me. Whereas, like, I used to write songs. I used to write songs with my friend Jimmy. I used to write songs by myself, but I'm not a musician. And so, like, a lot of times they stayed in my notebook, or they were very, very simple, just chord progressions and lyrics. But now, like, this whole, like, reservoir of creativity has been open for me, and it makes me feel vibrant and alive and deeply, deeply creative. And I wouldn't have that otherwise. I think that being open-minded about how it can help you evolve as a creator is a really important thing to keep your art relevant, and to keep you relevant, and to keep you going forward in a time where it's really easy to feel lost, and like you're losing your footing, and like it's going to be more difficult than ever. And yeah, it might be different than it was before, but it already is different than it was before. That's just a fact. So how do you find your place without losing your place in this new reality? I think that's a better question.
Now, to date, the only people I really see excited about AI are usually tech bros and people looking at the opportunity to make money, or maybe fire half their staff, like a video game company. Like, video game employees are down, I forget if it's like 30 or 40%, you know, year over year. A lot of people are, you know, losing their jobs because of AI stepping in. So it's hard to think of it as a creative asset or a tool, even though I know mechanically it is just that. So, you know, we don't want to, like, make light of all the people that have lost their jobs, or the threat that it poses to artistics and creatives. How do we square that away
Well,
with?
it is existential. Like, we saw that with the writer's strike. Like, we had so much momentum in our first year out, like, trying to sell IP, and then the writer's strike happened in 2023, and it was very clearly, it went from, this is a financial strike that's almost on the calendar. We have these every 15 years. You know, the one we had before in 2008, we, you know, got that really shitty year of crappy TV, right? Where there was only like 14 episodes of The Office and they weren't very good, right? It was a hard time, but like people understood that. Like the industry knew it was coming, the creators knew it was coming, like everybody just did their thing. It's a financial reset. And this time it was not. It was existential because New Hollywood was like, "Hey, we can wait this out. We can replace you." New Hollywood being Apple, Netflix, Amazon, right? Like companies that came into the creative space because they basically bought their way in. And so you had like Warner Brothers who was like like you could just feel the existential exhaustion there. And that's a very real thing. Like it is extremely disruptive, but any disruption does bring chaos, but it also brings opportunity if you look for the opportunity. And I don't mean like all the money that can be made. That's not what I mean by opportunity. I mean opportunity for change. So the last time, Hollywood was totally disrupted and the studio system was basically dismantled. That's when we got our Scorsese and our Coppola and our Spielberg and all of the indie cinema that came later. Like that all happened because the system broke down. And when the system breaks down, it does open the door for new artists and new way of thinking. And Hollywood is kind of a broken system, and it has been for a little while. And so it's really interesting to see how that can shift. And so in the video game example, yeah, that really, really sucks. It sucks for a lot of people, and they're going to have to find new ways to make money or to fulfill themselves creatively, financially, whatever. But I'm telling you with pretty much certainty that if I was a video game developer and I was working for a video game company. Let's say I worked for Ubisoft and I was like, I'm one of their developers, I'm one of their programmers, and all of a sudden I'm laid off. Guess what I'm doing Monday morning? I'm making my own game. Because now I have the ability to take all of the intelligence that I've spent decades or whatever, contributing to another company. Now I can do that for myself. I can make a game for myself and try to sell it. And I realize that there's this whole other universe now. Well, you have to figure out how to market the game and you have to, get the players and all of that. But that's just always going to be the reality. If you do something for yourself, you have to figure out how to do that market. And I'm somebody who's naturally wired to think in that way. Again, I think that new collectives can form. I think new kinds of art can form. So does it suck? Yes, absolutely. Zero doubt about it. If we could all like blow out the candle and make us go back in time to before AI was here, that would be awesome, but that's not possible. So the question is like, I'm just not somebody who's going to like cry about the way things are. I want to figure out how to make them better. How do I make it better for myself, for my family, for the people I work with, and for the art I make?
There is like a helplessness you feel like when I was laid off from my job at the newspaper, due to, economic shit that was changing. I was very depressed about it. And that's when I became a writer and decided to tell my own stories. It's it's difficult, but to your point, there are video game coming. Like Claire Expedition 33 was Game of the Year last year. It's made by a small studio. I think it was from Ubisoft that they spun out from after maybe losing their jobs or leaving. And it is one of the best, most beautiful games I've ever seen. And it was made very scrappily. It was made by a few people. They found the music person like on Fiverr or something like that. Like they found everybody through social media, came together and made this just beautiful, beautiful game. They used AI in some of the assets prior, like just to get them like to the 1.0, not in the final game, but some did end up in the final game. And a lot of people gave them shit about that. But overall, they weren't using AI to make the story and all of that. And that is an example of somebody rolling with the punches of reality, making their own thing, and it turned out better than most of the AAA games we've seen lately. This competed and it made its money and then some. It earned love from a lot of people, and now everybody wants to see what they'll do next.
Well, and I love that example, and thank you for that because I don't know anything about the video game space, really. I mean, it's been years. I used to be a total video game nerd, but then I had children and it just hasn't been sins. But I love that because it's exactly what I'm talking about. New collectives will form, new art will be created. And what you're talking about, from what I understand, they didn't outsource their thinking. They weren't like, hey, robots, make me a cool game. They used their intelligence and their creativity to create story. And every time I've used AI, I've used it to push myself to create things I could not have created otherwise. I'm not interested in going faster with the things I can already do. I'm interested in finding new ways to do things or experimenting with art that I could not have made otherwise. And that lights me up. Like I love doing things that have never been done. And I don't just mean out in the world. I mean, for me personally, it's very gratifying. And, like I'm in a season right now where I'm having more fun than I've had in years. And a lot of that is because of tools. And I'll also add that a lot of the hate I've seen is from people who have not even used these tools. They're just like, they hate them on a gut visceral level, which again, I understand it. I do understand it. I think there's a couple things going on here. First of all, there's a fear. Like fear of change is very, very real. And this is something that is changing us way too fast. And it's something that's changing us to make us uncomfortable. And I get that. I am uncomfortable, but I'm not going to surrender to the discomfort. I'm going to take charge of my own discomfort, and I'm going to harness the storm instead of, hiding in the root cellar. And so I think that that's part of it. If you look at Pseudo-Write, which is an app for like writing, I don't use Pseudo-Write. I played around with it a little bit a couple of years ago, but I didn't really vibe with the way that it works. But I didn't have any problem with it existing. And they had this like outlining function that they were announcing. And the Twitter stream was just like, I hope your babies die. Like they were like the most heinous shit, most hateful stuff was being said to these developers who had created this tool. And not one, like I read like for a while and I didn't see anybody who had actually used the product talking about it. These were all people who just hated its existence and were saying awful things about like the people's families and their right to exist because they had made this thing. And I just don't think that that's appropriate. Like that's not okay. Like it's not okay. We are in a time of change. And the parallel I use often is Photoshop. When Photoshop was first a thing, there was a lot of anger from artists. Like this is not real art. And you flash forward 30 years and like Photoshop is, or a Photoshop equivalent is, that's used by artists in every medium. And so I think that we're in a very uncomfortable time of transition right now.
I've seen you develop IP for a lot of people, and you're really good at it. You've helped a ton of people with their projects and stuff. So what made you decide, hey, we're writing books, we're writing scripts, all that stuff that we do without AI. I would like to get AI involved and write some fucking music and make albums for stuff. What made you do that?
All right. So that's a really big question, and let me unpack it a little bit. So first of all, what you're referring to with the AI stuff is I've done AI consulting outside of the company for a little bit, where someone will come in with kind of an idea, usually a nonfiction book, and it's like, how many ways can you split the atom on this particular piece of intellectual property? And you can do it in an infinite number of ways. And we've learned, like Hollywood, like that's the business model, right? So in marketing, IP means content. In Hollywood, IP means currency. They're very good at turning an idea into multiple forms of income or attention. And so that's something that I natively am good at because I love that idea. Like we've been doing that for a long time, but Sterling and Stone is a publishing company, or was a publishing company primarily for a long, long time. So we focused on books, but it's a brand new world. And like we, a few years ago got into the IP game, and that meant film and television, but only because that was our next step. There's so many things you could do. Like I'm super interested in podcasts, in graphic novels, in video games, eventually role-playing games. And just as a quick aside, here's an example of a way that, now I never actually followed this all the way to the end, but do you remember the 71-page white space role-playing game, right?
Yes.
So this was just something I'm like, what could AI do? And so that's an example of like, I was trying to create other experiences around IP that we already had. And so white space was when I'm like, this could make a cool role-playing game. And I was just curious. So I fed it into our books into an AI and gave it all the prompts and worked with it to create a 71-page role-playing game, like a full-on, like, here's what the rules would be, here's how the magic
TTRPG.
would work. Yeah, and it was very cool. Now, that's just an artifact, like, we've not done anything with it. It was just experimenting 'cause I like to experiment. But that's not, like, me using it to write a book faster, it's me using it to ideate, and what would this look like? And what it gave us, we couldn't have just gone to market with that. Dave and I would have need to look at that and bounce it back and forth and iterate those ideas. But what a cool thing to have a start with. And so I'm always interested in, like, what are the different ways that you can express a given idea, or a given universe. Like, how do you build a universe around an idea is the real question. And so, um, I was talking to the founder of Comic-Con. This had to be maybe 3 years ago at this point. He said something that just really stuck with me, and it was kind of this idea that I'm talking about, but put in really simple terms. And he's an IP guy, right? So he's been an IP guy for a long, long time. Did you ever read Wizard magazine?
Long time ago, yeah.
Okay, so he's the founder of Wizard magazine. That's what he did before Comic-Con.
Okay.
And I actually didn't know that. I was on a bus with him. We were picked up at the airport, and we were being taken to this, it was a mastermind thing in Cabo, like, I don't know, a few years ago. And we just got to talking, and he was talking about Wizard magazine. I'm like, "Dude, like, I'm in middle school right now." It was for those of you listening who don't know, Wizard magazine was the only magazine about comic books. And so you'd have, like, interviews with, like, Todd McFarlane. It was super nerdy and super awesome. And of course, that's the guy who went on to do
Did it
Comic.
predate Marvel Age?
No, I don't think so, but it wasn't just about Marvel,
Oh,
right? It
okay.
was about comics and the industry. And when McFarlane started Image Comics, like, that's where his first interview was, and I read it like a giddy kid. And so anyway, he was talking about how whenever he develops a piece of IP, whether it's a new character or a story or whatever, he needs to think about it's going to be in 3 mediums. And I was like, "Well, what do you mean by that?" Well, can it be a board game? Can it be an action figure? Can it be a movie? Can it be a TV show? Can it be a graphic novel? Can it be, a podcast? And just the fact that he was like, it needs to be in 3 things. And if the idea can't support 3 things, then I move on to another idea. And I was like, that's really cool. That's really, really cool. I love that idea a lot. And then now, a few years later, the music thing has kind of percolated to the top as the thing that has captured my creativity and my interest in a way of expressing that, like, 3 idea. And so it actually started in November of 2024. So I just got back from Author Nation, and I was all like hot to trot. Joanna Penn gave this great talk about how she referred to, like, AI as like Michelangelo. Michelangelo did not paint the Sistine Chapel on his own. He had the vision, and then he used the intelligence and creativity around him to help fully express his art. And I left Author Nation, like, thinking I don't want to go faster, but I want to go deeper. I want to do things that I haven't done before. And so there was a book that was coming out, in a few months, and it was about time travel. Time travel is, like, hard, like, you and I have never even tried time travel because it's so easy to just fuck it up, right? Paradoxes abound. And so the part of the one of the scenes, there's a character who needs to convince another character that they're from the future. And the way they do it is by completing a song in this other character's head. So basically, when Marty convinces Doc that he's from the future by describing the flux capacitor that Doc hasn't actually.
In that documentary series, Back to the Future.
Right, in the
Yes.
new series Back to the Future. And so we use that same device. And so there was a song that already existed in the book. The lyrics were there. And I thought, you know what, it'd be really cool if, as part of the marketing materials for this book, when it comes out next year, there's a song, and I bring this song to life. And so that was the first time that I used Suno, which is the primary tool that I use when crafting songs. And it was a little like going with Midjourney for the first time. Like I was interested in playing with the songs, but I was afraid of the rabbit hole. And this happened over break. Like, okay, I have a little bit of break. It's, I'm gonna play. And that first track took a few hours to get something that I was proud of, but the results were so much better than I would have expected. Like the lyrics were already there, but now it had a container to sit in and it felt like a real song. And I just got really, really excited. And then I went down a really deep rabbit hole and wrote an entire album around around that.
Why don't you
None
tell everyone how long that took?
It took a long time, but, like, not that long. But, that was a while ago, and I now those songs have all been completely rewritten, like, a year later. Like, this last winter break, I actually rewrote the entire album, and weirdly, as just a coincidence, as of today, so Joel on our team, he's remastered. He's the one mastering all the tracks, and
Who
it
was a
got
musician
yeah, yeah,
before
yeah. He had
in a
a
band?
band, Mothers of Murder, Mom, and that's been remastered as of today. So that album has come full circle. And the originals are pretty bad by comparison to, what they became, but I rewrote all the words and rewrote all the music. And that just like really, really lit something up in me. But it was something that I put aside. Like I did that album and then I moved on with the world. And, there's a lot like last year was very busy with a lot of things that just needed to be done. And but then it was like late last year, I started writing. I wrote an album with 17 songs on it that just tell kind of like one long story essentially. And it was the most fun I have had creating in I don't even know how long. I mean, many, many, many years. And that album, I spent longer on that album than any book I've written, maybe ever, but definitely in years. And it really lit something up in me. And then I was like, well, I've always been most successful when I follow my gut on the things that I feel most creative. Like as a company, we've always been most successful when we lean into the future instead of the past and we do things that are a little bit scary and a little bit new. Like we've always been more successful doing that.
And I think that goes to your creative curiosity. Like when you first approached AI, it felt more skeptical. Like, I just want to see what this fucker can do. And, how long before it replaces us?
Yeah, I was a little
And
adversarial with it.
right. And I think, the way you approach it is a bit different than I think a lot of people would think it will work. I don't know how most other people use AI. I just have like a negative percent. Like when I see an AI song charting on Spotify, it makes my blood boil. It pisses me off because I don't feel that whoever was involved really had any part of themselves in it. Maybe they did, I don't know, but that's just my gut reaction. And I won't listen to the song, I won't enjoy it. But I know there's people that feel the same way I do. Then there's people that don't care. They just want to hear something that they like, and someone's listening to the shit and making it number one. I don't know.
Well, it is definitely a trend that isn't going away, but that's not really what I'm doing. Like I don't need the stuff on Spotify. Like
Right,
that's
I
not
know. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say is you're doing it different. You're approaching it from a creative curiosity almost and wanting to flesh out ideas you have in your head as a creative. Whereas I think a lot of the bad knock AI gets is from people who aren't creative and they're just like pushing a button and spitting shit out, which
right.
I
If you
feel
look
is
at like
very
the top,
different.
like you can go on Suno and there's like all these trending songs and they have like 28,000, likes and I'll play them and I'm like, I don't get it. Like I don't get it. It sounds like AI slop to me,
Mhm.
where I'm trying to only create things that I would listen to and that feed me and somehow feed the art. So specifically, the project that we're working on right now, it's a little too early to name the project, but it has an already written script and it has so we have a script, we have a novella. Both of those are unreleased. The script is actively being shopped. The novella will come out probably this year. And now there's a character who has a playlist in the story and by their favorite artist, and Dave and I are now in the process of writing that EP that's like this little playlist, and it will have the same title as the novella and the script. And Hollywood loves this kind of shit. Like they love thinking about how you can expand IP. So already when we're shopping the script, already bonus points that there's a novella coming out, but now there's this little IP thing that is like, part of it. And that just it allows us, as me and Dave as a creative partnership, to get more out of our partnership, more out of the art, but also increasing its inherent value to the marketplace in three different areas. So the music acts as a marketing piece because it promotes this novel. It inflates the value of the IP, but it also is just like fun. Like I've had a lot of fun creating with this. Like it feels like the old days. And there's a couple other like pieces of texture here. First of all, I feel born to write lyrics in this way. And for those of you who don't know, the only reason I got started writing was because my wife and I had a preschool and I was writing basically songs without music. I didn't even want to refer to them as poems. They were very lyrical and I was
Very
kind of
Dr. Seussian sort of children's
yeah,
poems. Yeah.
really linguistically sophisticated. I was super obsessed with Eminem at the time, and I'm like, I could do Eminem for children, you know. And
That's a good marketing.
I sent the draft of these like 20 some, poems to a publisher, and they told me my vocabulary was too rich for children. And that's when I started Writer Dad. Literally, I got this email on a Friday. On Monday, I'm live with Writer Dad. A week later, I meet Dave. And our first project together was called We Books, where he would do the art and I would write the little like poems. And then our next project was Available Darkness, where he sent me chapter 1 and I rewrote it. It was like, here's what you mean, and here's how to make it sound really fucking cool. And this is like the same thing, but now 17 years later, we've been writing that long together. And now, Dave wrote lyrics for, songs. And then I rewrote the lyrics, and then I'm getting the tracks, and then he's giving me feedback on what he likes and what he doesn't. And we're iterating it. Takes a long fucking time. But wow, it's this beautiful thing that we have that's added a lot of vibrancy to our creative relationship, and it's made like I can't stop thinking about new projects that I want to do, and that's a really exciting place to be.
So getting to using the music as promotion, I feel like and perhaps this is the fearful, cynical, skeptical side of me that, worries like if you put something out there that's promotional and people tend to hate AI music, won't that tarnish the other stuff that you made wholly without AI, like the book, the script, and all of that? Doesn't that kind of hurt the other stuff?
Yeah. Like, I
So
mean,
why do it?
well, because that's a temporary thing. The culture is changing, and I'm patient and I understand, and I won't put it out if it's not ready to be put out. I give you an example. So my son was home over winter break, and I wrote a song specifically to impress him. Now it was on it's the book's already written for this. It is a companion piece. So this one has a book, an album, and another asset. But there was a specific track on the album that was exactly the kind of thing that he would listen to. So I wrote it not like "Will you love me, son," but like definitely trying to impress him.
This is the music inside me. Can't you see?
I know how he feels about AI music. He thinks AI music is all garbage. So I was like,
My son is the same.
right. This is the age. I get it. Like I get it. If I
But
was
there is an irony here. I think both of our sons like rap music, and a lot of rap music uses samples. Some use exclusively samples remixed into something completely different. And
I
that's not
know.
original, but it sounds good, and it has it the musician has brought a part of themselves to it. It's not it's like direct steal from other people because they're twisting and turning the samples into something different. They're seeing it in an artistic way that it wasn't originally, like remixing and mixing and all that shit.
Yeah, I think that look, I get it. There's no AI arguments that I don't understand or even disagree with on some fundamental level. But it's like, okay, we're here. What now? So I'm playing this song for Ethan, and he's smiling through it. he's clearly enjoying it. The lyrics are funny and it's so on point. And I know him well. I knew what would light him up. And I'm a good writer. I knew how to get the response I wanted from my audience. So he's like smiling through it. And he goes, okay, so here's my honest opinion. He goes, it's a really good song. I love the lyrics. It's exactly the kind of thing I would listen to, but it's AI, so I don't like it. And I'm like, okay, well, I get that. But if you just heard it on the radio and you had no idea, then how would you have responded to it? Well, then I would have liked it. Okay, well, at least he's being honest there, right? There was there was a TikTok song that was like, this is a few weeks ago. It was all over TikTok. People were using it, loving it. There was like a 15-second clip, and then it came out that it was AI, and all of a sudden people hated it. So look, that to me, all those signals mean that is temporary. That is absolutely temporary. And look, I'm not going to pretend like I have no like there's a part of me that is very much like timid about it. Even the fact that we're having this conversation publicly right now.
Yeah,
you
I'm
and me.
surprised we're doing the show at all, to be honest.
Well, it's because I want to feel more comfortable. Like I want to lean into it. This is like, remember when we did serial fiction back in 2011? Nobody told us it was a good idea. Every traditionally published author we talked to told us that it was a bad idea, and on and on and on. Like everybody told us it was wrong, and we were just like, no, we're ahead of the curve here. And we went with confidence and we did it. This has way more stakes than serialized fiction. So it is a little bit scary. And yes, there is a part of me that has nerves talking about it, but I don't want to not talk about it for that, because I want to talk to the people who are like, well, maybe I can express myself in this different way. And it doesn't have to be music. It's what is the part of you that could come alive that couldn't have been alive before? Like, I want to talk to the person. There's smarter artists right now listening to this episode that their lives are going to be forever changed because we are having this conversation, and that there's a lot of value. One of the people who helped was, so my manager, actually Sterling Stone's manager, is a musician, a professional musician. They're in addition to being a manager, they're in 2 bands. They literally write songs every day, right? And so I was a little bit, or a lot bit, nervous to talk for the first time to Spencer about this. I felt shy. I felt very shy. And so but he's my manager. Like he needs to know what I'm doing. And we are like creating IP around some of these initiatives. And I felt like he needed to know what I was doing. So right when I finished that first 17-track album, I was like, I got to tell Spencer what I'm doing. And so I was just a little bit like sheepish about it. And he's like, why? Why would you feel sheepish about it? You're a hell of a writer. It doesn't matter that you're not a musician. If you were a producer, you'd be in a room full of musicians kind of orchestrating what you wanted to hear and how. And you would be writing the lyrics. How is that any different? And that really did help me get some perspective on it, because I am a writer. I am a producer. This is just like, naturally, I have tools now that I would have longed for at some other, point in my life. And the fact that I have these tools that allow me to create magic, like I don't want to take it for granted. I want to use it to make myself better. I want to use it to make my studio better. I want to use it to make all of my collaborators better. And I feel like it's made us better. It's made our art better. It's made our relationship like more vibrant than it's been in a while, just because we're like in the thick of the creation and we're passing it back and forth. And that's exciting.
I think when I see that something, like if I see a story on Amazon is AI written, I'm not going to fucking read it, because I want to know. And I feel the same way about music to an extent, although hearing the songs that I wrote lyrics to and you coming back with something, and I kind of enjoyed them even though I didn't want to. Like, ideally speaking, for AI music, and I haven't messed around with the actual music production itself, like because I've always wanted to do like soundtrack music and ambient sort of music, but I'm not going to take the time to learn all the fucking instruments. I know keyboard a little bit and guitar I'm pretty bad at, but if I could like hum what I want and make like a soundtrack of the different sounds where it's actually my voice turning into the music, I would feel better about like making music. I feel like I actually contributed to it. And I think that's the stepping stone that I need to make, or I need to feel like somebody was actually involved in the creation of this thing. Because if it's just AI slop, I can't get behind that. I can't enjoy that. I
Well,
can't connect to it.
you shouldn't
It's
get
like
behind that.
an artist kind of has to go through something to create something. Otherwise, I don't think there's a lot of meaning there.
Well, absolutely, and I would say that that first album that I wrote is probably the most personal thing I've ever written in 20 years of writing. So, well, not quite 20 years. How long have I been doing this? 18 years? Like, in 18 years, it is the most personal thing that I've ever written, and I think that the amount of like, there's a huge difference between going into Suno, and you can do this. You can say, "Write me a song about eating pizza in summer at the beach," and you press a button, and you will have a song that is about eating pizza in summer at the beach, and it will be verse, chorus, verse, and it will be earwormy and like whatever. But to me, you're absolutely right. That has no value. And I feel like I'm making music that connects with people. And so, yes, there's going to be a lot of people who dismiss it outright, but that's not who I'm going after. I'm going after the people who are like, wow, I love this story. And I was having dinner with a musician. This is a professional musician who has millions and millions and millions of streams on YouTube. And we were eating, and this is in Toronto in September. And so I wasn't deep in the writing yet, but I was still dabbling for sure. And we had this great dinner. I think there was like 7 people at the meal, and we were all telling very intimate stories. It was a very intimate dinner. And one of the ways that I've been using writing music is it's a form of journaling. So I used to have to write like a lot to archive the way I felt in a moment or remember something, and to be able to have a 3-minute version of like a journal entry basically that I can listen to and immediately put myself back in a time and place. It's been very, very therapeutic and like inspiring and all positive stuff. And so why would I deprive myself of that? Anyway, after dinner, I wrote a song for the entire group, and I texted it to the people, and I was insecure about this because one of the people was a professional musician. So, A, I'm putting my songcraft on display, and felt like I was going to be judged, but also like it's the whole AI thing. And so I said, like, I made this with AI, but I feel compelled to share because it was, like the 3-minute version of what we all shared, like encapsulated in lyrics. And his response was just magical. He's like, look, it fucking terrifies me that robots can do this, but clearly there is so much humanity in this, and clearly there is so much of you in this that I'm surprised to say that I'm deeply inspired. And that's 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 it. Like, not everybody is going to feel that way, and that's fine. But I think the culture is shifting, and even if it doesn't, there's always going to be people who see the art behind the robots. And like I don't expect the robots to ever do my thinking or my creating for me. I expect them to collaborate with me in the same way that I've been collaborating for the entire time I've been doing this. You and I started collaborating within 2 weeks of meeting each other, and I have been a serial collaborator for the entirety of my time online and building things. I collaborate with my clients, I collaborate with my partners, I collaborate with my studio. I love collaborating, and this is just another form of collaboration for me.
So where do you think it goes from here? One of the areas, because I follow video games very closely, I see a lot of people say they don't want to see AI in games. However, I can see instances where AI would make a game better. Red Dead Redemption 2, or the first one, either one, there's what they call like these random encounters, and it's like an extra story that you can
Remember
get
when we
involved
used to
with.
write lady porn about random encounters?
They're called Radiant Quests, and they're
Ours
like,
were not called Radiant Quests.
no, they weren't. But they're Radiant Quests, and they pop up like randomly throughout the world. So like after you play the game and you just fucking around riding, and like you want to spend more time in the world, but you run out of things to do, these Radiant Quests are kind of there to do that and keep you in the world, keep you engaged. I think AI used in that aspect could really flesh out the world, could give you people to meet and make the world feel more lived in and real and expand on what's already there and not replace it. Like that, I could see AI being used for. So, what do you think is the evolution of where we are now with creating not only just with AI, but also having other avenues out there, like having the music and the scripts and all of that, like for
Yeah,
IP overall?
that's a great example with Red Dead Redemption. I think that we're going to see art that we haven't seen before. I think that, look, I think both things are true. I think we're going to see a lot of garbage, a lot of slop. I think we're going to see a lot of opportunists. I think we're going to see a lot of just like lazy garbage. And the big argument is like, well, what about discoverability? You know, like with all the AI, garbage books that get out there, how is me as an artist am I going to be found? Dude, we're already there. We were there before AI. There's already too much garbage out there and too many opportunists, like people who are marketers more than storytellers, who know how to put like a garbage book out with a great product description and the right ads and all of that. Like
And get a movie deal.
discoverability was already a bitch and her sister. So now use tools to evolve your art, evolve your creation, and that might be a way to stand out. Because again, I think we touched on this last episode or the episode before, but look up the Kevin Kelly article, An Audience of One. We're not far away from being able to, like, whatever kind of art you want could be delivered to your inbox by your favorite AI. So it is about how can you be different? How can you be unique? And I'm very, very confident that I can create art that is only from me. And it doesn't mean that it's my voice can't be replicated, right? So same thing, like go back. This is Johnny, my son, my daughter. There's a lot of resistance here, right? Early on. So and now, but when I was first, this is the same time period as when I was showing Johnny the Mid-Journey. My daughter was home for the holidays and I was trying to show her and she was not having it. She's like, I
And
don't want
she's an artist.
She's an artist. She's like, I don't want to see this. And she said, how would you feel if somebody could replicate what you were doing and you'd spent all this time learning how to do it? And I was like, this is how I would feel. And I took a piece of copy and I asked the AI, make this sound more like Sean Platt. And that's what it did. It was like a little more alliterative, and like I definitely have tics to the way I write. I definitely have a signature to my voice, and I have enough content out there that has been copied or trained or whatever
Great.
that the AI knows what it means to say, make this sound more like Sean Platt. Look, I can't fight that. That genie is out of the bottle. So I can either like sulk in the corner or I can make my three wishes. And I would rather make my three wishes. So I do know what it feels like. And, like, is it awesome? No. But can I change it? No. So
So
can I
we're trying to
change?
make the best of a bad situation and find outlets where we can within the new system.
Yes, like I want to, if this is the reality, then I want my art to evolve and I want to evolve along with my art. I want to become a stronger thinker. I want to go deeper with the things that I create. And I think that's the opportunity here because yeah, there's going to be a lot of garbage. So don't make garbage. Like just because AI is capable of making garbage doesn't mean you have to make garbage with AI. You can absolutely make beautiful things with AI. If you are capable of making beautiful things without AI, then you can make more beautiful things with AI, or you can also totally ignore it. And that's absolutely fine too. Johnny and I were exploring these things in depth with the Beam a long, long time ago and Robot
The
Proletariat.
themes.
And yes, these themes.
Right.
And in both of those stories, the end, spoiler alert, is that there has to be harmony between the artificial intelligence and the human intelligence, because that seems to me the only inevitable conclusion to all of this.
No, I think Skynet's the inevitable collusion.
Or there's that too. So
We're going to be batteries like in the Matrix.
I do think it's weird. I do think it's scary. I think those are normal reactions to it. But I also think that if we're looking at the trends and looking where things are going, like ride the wave.
So here's a legit question now. And we're not even, I guess we could touch a little on the ethical considerations of stealing or using work to train models. I mean, all of our stuff has been used. Our images on fucking social media are used. Everything is being used without our consent. And it's bad. It pisses me off, but it's already been done. There's nothing we can do. We can't. The billionaires are in control. What are we going to
Yes.
fucking do? So the question is then, how okay, let's say somebody used Stephen King as their model for their writing, because Stephen King is somebody you and I both like, and our writing probably very much inspired by him, especially early on before we found our voices. So how does somebody that's using AI to work with, not just do the work, but work with, which is still a point that I don't think I'm wanting to do with writing, at least. I said on a previous podcast, I could see using it for researching my own stuff, like making a story Bible and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Very invaluable because I don't want to read everything
No, it's
every
it's
time.
it's great for story Bibles and stuff like that. Keep tracking information. It's really helpful for tracking information.
So the question on, so if AI models are training on actual people out there and they're creating art, whether it be design or writing or music in the voice of somebody else, how does an artist then actually find their own voice? Because they're not doing the actual work. They're not refining in the way, like, you and I started off sounding like Stephen King, but the more we wrote, the more our voices changed. How does that occur in this new reality if somebody's not actually writing a lot, or do they have to write a lot on top of whatever the AI pumped out for them?
Well, I think that if the AI is just writing a book for you, then you're not the storyteller there.
Right.
You always have to be doing the work. So the nature of the work may change, but you have to be doing the thinking. If you're like, write me a book like Stephen King, and that's your prompt, what the fuck does that mean? Is it The Shawshank Redemption or is it it? Like those are very different things. What does it mean with Stephen King? And then once you have that, are you just like publishing that or are you taking that raw material and making it sound more like you? Because if you do that, you're probably going to end up, and you have a quality result at the end, you're probably going to spend just as much, if not more time than you would have just writing it from scratch. And if you're just like, write me a book like Stephen King and you press a button, then you're no different than what somebody could do on their own. You're not special. Like that's the thing here. Like we're really close to people being able to just get that from their own AI anyway. So why would they go and buy your version of Write Me a Book from Stephen King instead of just asking the AI to do that for themselves? Right? If they're a Stephen King fan, they don't need you. Like anybody who's creating content like that right now, that's a very, very, very temporary situation. That's like people who are keyword stuff in SEO articles in 2008. Like it's only a matter of time before there's a Google update that completely demolishes your business. It's very, very short term. But if you're using AI to create things that only you could create, that is sustainable. And so that is what I'm leaning into. It's not like,
So being something that only you can create means you have to put in the work.
yes, absolutely. Don't try to, it's not a shortcut. It's not a shortcut. It's a smart cut that is different. Like I'm not working less than I used to. I'm not spending less time on the things that I create. I'm spending my time differently because I will create a world Bible or I will brainstorm back and forth because, our schedules are off, when I'm in my prime working time is when you're sleeping. And so, it does help to have like, someone who is like bouncing an idea back at any time you want. But again, you have to be in charge. The moment you start outsourcing your creativity or outsourcing your thinking is the moment you've lost the game. But if you're completely, in front of it and you are guiding everything that happens and you are creating something that is completely true to you, it's an expression of you as a human soul. That is an exciting opportunity because now you have tools that you didn't have before and you can like ask yourself, what could I make if I could make anything? Maybe it's a role-playing game, you know? Maybe it's a children's book. Maybe it's an album. Like whatever it is, like we are in a new era and we're not going back to where we were. So how do you thrive instead of suffer?
That is the question. And I
I
guess
mean,
we'll
you've been asking this question for the entire time I've known you.
yes, and I guess we'll leave it on that existential note. I doubt this is the last time we'll be talking about the subject, and I'm sure that as things change, our feelings will change as well, because I don't think it's a solid ground that's beneath us right now. It's forever shifting,
Yeah.
and we need to figure out the best way to survive this while keeping our creative integrity.
Yes. I think integrity is a key word there. Like, make your children proud. Like, make yourself proud. Make your spouse proud. Make your partners proud. Make your collaborators proud. Like, I will always continue to make work that I am proud of and that I want to share, even if when I share it, my son tells me it sucks because it's AI. I have to know that like that's okay. I'm not taking it personally, and I'm confident that at some point he is going to evolve in that way. He's going to change because the culture will change. We've seen it before. We've seen it over and over and over. This is how the culture works. This is how the zeitgeist works. This is how history works.
Well, I still refuse to ever enjoy an AI written book, especially one that's pumped out, like you said, like an audience of one or whatever, like just for you, it makes this thing. I can never get behind, I can never enjoy that. I will remain that bitter old man screaming at the sky.
You absolutely should. Get off my lawn.
Yeah. Well, that is it for today's show. Johnny will be back next week, unless, he watches this show and's like, oh, fuck that.
That's a
So,
strong possibility.
so if you want
Dude,
to,
he's not going to watch this. He's not on it.
oh, right. Yes, that's
Right?
true. Well, if we
His
say
favorite person is missing.
if we say we talked about him, he'll watch
Well,
it.
that's true. That's true. Johnny, we talked about you the whole time. I can't wait to hear what you think about this episode. You're like, dude, I had to wait through all of that bullshit to get to that one word, Johnny, at the end.
So if you want to play along at home, the home game of the Smarter Artist, smarterartist.net, creation dash evolved. That is the show notes for this episode and where you'll find the video and stuff. I assume you're already found it if you're listening to this, but maybe you heard it on a podcast and you want to watch us because we are so beautiful. And I am waiting for that day when AI can make me look better, and then I will embrace that.
Dude, you know that day is here like now, right?
Okay. All right. Well, then. No, I mean in real life, not just on screen. Like I can just push a button and.
Sorry. Yeah, I think you have a little bit of time to
Yeah.
wait for that.
All right. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show. Leave your anger, comments, and shit down below, and we will see you next time.
Stay smart.
Bye.
They chase the spark, we own the dark. They feed the scroll, while we leave a mark. No tricks, no hacks, just the code they lack. Yeah. We stay on the rails while they fall off the track. Smarter artists never die. Yeah. We don't lay stone for spectacle, don't frame for applause. We build the boring way, with discipline and pause. They expect the penthouse view before the footing is set. A crown without calluses, a win without sweat. The craft is in the mortar, not the hunger for more. Not the facade that cracks with a hollowed out core. You want the trick, it's tedious, it's thankless, it's true. Show up with intention till the structure starts showing you. They go fast, we go far. Paper planes versus iron bars. They chase spikes, we stack days. We build the house that never fades. Let them run, let them fly. Smarter artists never die. Yeah. They chase vanity metrics that die at the peak. We pour the slow foundations while they sprint for the streak. We don't rent out retention to whatever blows through. We're setting corner posts for storms they never knew. We're not racing to the ribbon, we're widening the base. Let the footing fully cure before the frame locks in place. Every draft's another course, every session's a beam. We're not chasing momentum, we're constructing the dream. They go fast, we go far. Paper planes versus iron bars. They chase spikes, we stack days. We build the house that never fades. Let them run, let them fly. Smarter artists never die. They'll throw parades while you're still setting the forms. Pop champagne and glass towers while you're bracing for storms. Some nights you wonder if the blueprint's a lie, if the long game's just patience that forgot how to fly. But scars become low bearing when the structure survives. When the fast builds crack open and the slow ones stay alive. We don't ask for permission, we don't wait to be seen. We're drafting our futures in the quiet in between.
They go fast, we go far. Paper planes versus iron bars. They chase spikes, we stack days. We build a house that never fades. Let them run, let them fly. Smarter artists never die. Brick by brick, day by day. Let the others fade away. Smarter artists never die. Smarter artists never die.